Hey everyone, so today we're going to talk about the MIDI Fighter Twister and how I'm using it as a DJM mixer kind of replica for the doorless live rig set. So I've always wanted to have a DJM mixer at the end of my doorless rig after the Octatrack, because when I was doing the looper trick where I'd put a loop on channel 8, every time I was mixing into the new track I'd have to do loads of kind of tweaking on the tracks to kind of create or mimic a DJ mix. Now I've got this after the Octatrack and I'm able to do things like filter, low EQ, mid EQ, high EQ. I've also got send and returns, and I've got deck A and deck B. So let me just give you a quick demonstration of how it works on the MIDI controller, and then we'll talk about the programming behind it. So this is a track that I made on a previous video. I'm just going to use this as a demonstration. So first of all, if I turn this knob to the right, we get high pass, and if I turn it low, we get low pass, and then if we press it in, it'll reset to the middle point. Then on the low, take out the lows, boost the lows, take out the mids, boost the mids, highs, and I can basically create a DJ mix when mixing into another track, which is quite handy. Now, that's the most simple part of this controller, is the two middle rows. So the first one is deck A, and that's for the live deck that you're listening to now. And then deck B will be whatever gets recorded onto track 8. So you can see when I start this, it records a loop, or if I press function and yes, it'll record a loop. Now that the loop is recorded on channel 8, I can switch to that by using this knob here. So the volume's a little bit off because it's a bit louder. I need to like program this a bit better. But you can hear that we're doing a 16 bar loop now. There's the live loop. There's the 16 bar loop. And then if we press the button, it flicks between, which is quite handy, right? Two reasons for this. One of them is that once I've created a loop, I don't want to be blending like that because it's going to get very loud in the middle. So what I can do is press that, takes it to deck B, which is the loop. Then I can switch to a new pattern. So now I should have switched to a new pattern. Let me just double check that we are on a new pattern. Then what I can do is take out some stuff and mix in the new pattern like this. Let's high pass deck B. I've never mixed these two before together, so it sounds a bit weird. But deck B, I can send it into the reverb and delay. So you get the idea. So that was the idea behind it. I'm able to mix the two decks like this, or I can basically press it to switch between deck A and deck B in a rapid way so that it doesn't have any audible boosts in the middle. So that was the reason behind that. Let's just quickly take a look at the sends and returns. I'm going to explain this in a deeper level of how I've programmed it as well. So now we're listening to deck A. If I bring up this one here, that is a reverb send, and then on the bottom we've got a delay send. If I go to deck B, which is the loop, you can see that I've got the same on this side. We've got reverb send, delay send. Go back. So with the delay send, we've actually got some extra controls. So if I bring that right up now, let's take the kick out. I can change the time like a tape delay, and then the feedback's there. So yeah, we've got that going on. I can also change this from free time to synced. So you can see it's blue at the moment. If I switch it, it'll change it to yellow. So now that is synced. And I can change the different times like that. I've just realised my Ableton wasn't on external sync, which is very important. So when I've got Ableton on external sync, it actually reads the BPM time. So the delay was a little bit out there. Now it should be in time. Yeah, you can hear it now, and now it's kind of in time. The other things that we do have on this, I just need to test this because I haven't done it in a while. I showcased this before, but I haven't played around with it since. We've got stash and recall on the variations in Ableton. And I think this one is stash. Let me just press that. Yeah, that's stashed it, and this one should be recall. So when I press these buttons in, they've got secondary functions. So the top right, I don't think that is doing anything. I'm not sure what that does at the moment. I think that's just a free knob at the moment. I've got a spare one there. And that one's obviously the feedback, but then when you press them in, they've got secondary functions. Stash, recall. So what I can do with stash recall, which I mentioned before, is I can change some of the parameters in Ableton, and then I can recall them. So what I mean by parameters is, first and foremost, the stuff on the mixer, like this. So if I bring up the reverb, actually no, let me go back, sorry. Stash it first. So I've stashed it. This is basically like save and reload on the Digitax. If I now bring up, I think it does the filter as well, I can't remember. Let's just test that. So yeah, I can mess with the DJ controls. It doesn't reset that one, I don't think. Let me just try it. Stash, recall. Yeah, that one doesn't work. So what I did was purposely not on deck B. Not to get too much in the weeds about this, we'll cover this in another video. But I can basically add exclusions, and the exclusions that I've set are things like the channel volumes and stuff like that. So on the DJ mixer, I can call and reset the sends and also the send and return settings. And the reason for that was so that I could quickly get back to like a dry state. But it also affects the whole of Ableton as well. So if I'm like playing this now and I go to track 13 on the Digitax, I can mess with the drive settings and everything. And then if I press recall, you can hear that it's reset. Let me just reset on here as well to reset them. So yeah, the idea is that I can go a little bit off-piste with the settings in Ableton, and then I can recall the state later on. But the main function of that variations obviously is so that I can set EQ settings and different states for different tracks in the set. But then it's got this quick snapshot thing, which is linked to the controller. So that's pretty much it on the MIDI Fighter Twister. I'll show you the settings for that in a second. And then also let's just take a look at Deck A in Ableton. So Deck A in Ableton, what we're going to focus on is this DJ mixer. Now, I have used two companies' tools to make this, to make my own version. And I'll just give them a shout out now. So the first one is Isotonic. So I bought this like absolutely years ago. They keep updating it. So we've got the Smart XL by Isotonic Studios. I was using Isotonic a lot in the early days of me doing live sets because they've got loads of cool Max4Live devices for doing things that you can't do in Ableton, such as creating curves for MIDI and stuff like that. So I'm using the Smart XL, and I'll come on to that in a second why I'm using it. And then we've also got the DJM mixer by RM Vibes. So what I like about this guy is that he's basically used, I think he used white noise. I watched his video on YouTube, go and watch that as well. It's this one, this is his channel, RM Vibes, and then the video is somewhere in there, I'll link it down below. What he's done, I think he said he used flat white noise, and he used an actual DJM, and then he tried to use Isotope 9 to match the EQ of the filters, and you can see that in the filter. So if I go to the filter now and bring up the highs, you can see he's created a curve there, and then obviously it's bi-directional as well. And the way that I've set up my controller is that it's also bi-directional. The mids, you can see if you go high and low, it's got a certain like curvature about it. And then also the low as well. I'm not sure exactly how accurate he's got it. He claims to have got it very, very accurate. And I kind of believe him. It sounds good enough to me anyway. It sounds much better than just doing it without those EQ curves. And it sounds quite similar to a DJM mixer. I obviously deleted quite a few of the extra settings which I didn't want. So what did we have on there? So we had low, mid, high. Yeah, I got rid of the volume, the low pass filter, the high pass filter, the echo and stuff like that, because I'm using my own echo and reverb sends and stuff like that. And also the filter as well. I can't remember what was going on with the filter. Oh yeah, so the filter wasn't bi-directional, was it? The filter, we had a low pass filter and a high pass filter. I wanted a bi-directional filter just on one knob, which is where the Smart XL comes into play. So what I've done is I bought this from this guy, didn't change out, just deleted the settings I didn't want, and then I mapped them to a bigger rack here. So we've got the low, mid, high there. Track volume, I mapped that myself because that one's actually, instead of getting mapped in a rack, the track volume is getting mapped on here. And you can see the way I've done it is that if I turn the MIDI Fighter Twister to the midway point, both tracks will play at the same volume. And then if I turn it down to the right, then Deck A comes down. Now you can't do this in Ableton if you just use basic MIDI mapping. There's no way you can do that unless you use some kind of script or something on a controller, which is where Smart XL comes into play again. So let's take a look at Smart XL and look at how I'm getting this to work in such a way. So if I go to floating window and just bring this up and open it up, you can see if I change the filter, actually, yeah, well, no, we'll do track volume first. It looks a bit crazy this, but if we go to track volume, it should highlight it if I take the lock off. There you go. So you can see this is the track volume of Deck A, and you can see it remains at full volume. So I'm moving the MIDI controller to the middle, and then I've drawn a curve in. So once it gets past the halfway point, then it slopes down. I could curve that, but I've just done a straight linear line. And then if we just close that back up and look at the other deck, I think I did the other deck actually on Deck B. So Deck B's got a replica of the same rack. And then if we go into this one, you can see that I've got it there, and it's just the opposite way around. So you can see it starts on the right and it goes to the left. So it starts low, sorry, then at the midway point it comes up, and in the middle both decks are kind of playing the same volume, and then the other one slopes down. So really simple stuff, but you're able to do kind of complex curves with the Smart XL. So that was an afterthought really, because I was going to just do like some mapping using the crossfader in Ableton, which you can do as well. But then I decided to do it this way, because I don't really like using Ableton's crossfader. I can't remember why. Oh yeah, because in Ableton's crossfader, you can't get this curvature in the middle. Maybe there's a way to do it. Let me know in the comments below. But I wanted it to mimic the same curvature that I was doing with the Octatrack. I had this like thing going on the Octatrack where I boosted the gain on each side with the mapping, and there was a certain way to do it where you could get it to kind of have a curve like this, what I've just shown you, where both tracks in the middle are playing at the same volume. Because that's how I mix with a DJ mixer anyway. I get to a point where I've got pretty much both tracks up at the same volume, and you're still able to blend the two. So if you want to kind of like still keep this one in Deck B but turn it down a little bit, then you just bring it to the, you bring it to the left, sorry, and then Deck B gets a little bit quiet. But this volume remains constant on this side. So that's just like turning down the volume of Deck B, but in the middle you've got them both slammed up to the top. So the filter settings, let's have a look at the low first. Where's that one? There we go, Octa low. So you can see for this one in the middle, it's quite kind of tricky to work this out. Let me just, oh no, let's do the filter first. Let's do the filter. So I have actually set the EQs up with this as well. So the filter, let's take a look at what it's doing first. If I turn it to the right, you can see that it comes up like this, and then the resonance comes up. And then when you get to the far left, it switches off. And then if you go to the left, this one's off, but then when you get to a certain point, it switches on. Resonance comes up, then it slopes down like that. And then if we take a look at the curves, we can go to Octa A frequency. Was it this one? Let me just have a quick look. It's getting a bit tricky to see what I've done here. Let me just have a quick look, right? So yeah, okay, so we've got Octa A frequency resonance device on. These three are for this one, I think, and these three are for the one on the right. So let's look at the left one first. So that's the one that's up now. So yeah, you can see it's off at the moment. It doesn't move the frequency, but then as I go up, it turns the frequency up like that. You can see there. Not all the way up, just 80%. So that's the sloping of the frequency here. Let's lock that down, and then let's look at the second filter. And you can see for that one, it remains constantly where it is now, at around 91%. As soon as I get to this point in the middle and go past, then it slopes down. Same with the resonances. If you look at the resonance of the first filter, it remains constant all the way across to the middle. And then as you go to the right hand side, then it slopes up. So the middle point is like where everything kind of stays the same. And then if we look at the on-off buttons, so I've mapped the on-off buttons, you can see this filter is off until I get to the right, and then it switches on. And then if I go to the right-hand side, this filter is off on the right until I get to the left, then it switches on. So this area here, 45% to 55%, that's the area where nothing is happening. A little bit kind of tricky to look at when you're just looking at it like this and you've got all these lines everywhere. But that's pretty much how it works. And then if we take a look at the deck A, low, high, and mids, let's just look at those slopes. So you can see I've done these bi-directional as well. So in the original rack, he kind of had that going on a little bit. So I'll just show you what it looks like on the rack. If you go left, it goes -13. And if you go right, it goes +4. So he has mapped it like that. And then in the middle, it's 0. But the way that I've done it on here is that I've just kind of mimicked that so that the midway point, it stays at 0 dB where it is there. And then you can see the slope up there and then the slope down. That's to get it onto one knob in such a way that the midpoint, it stays center on 0. And I've just done the same for mid-high. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then on deck B, if we go to deck B, you can see I've done exactly the same, just copied it over. But this controls the settings on deck B, like track volume. And then I've got the same setup here. And that's pretty much it, really. For my Patreons, I may be able to give you this rack. Obviously, I can't give you it for free because I'm using 2 companies' products. So I would recommend go in and buy in this one first. If you want to use my rack, go and buy this guy's products first. Give him $10. And then go and buy a copy of Smart XL as well, which is $16. You would have to do this anyway to make your own rack. And then if you're already signed into my Patreon, then I'll kind of do the extra work for you once you've sent these 2 guys some money. Because I can't give you the rack, because then I'm kind of like ripping these guys off by not basically talking about their work first and then just using what they're programming and what they've done and giving that away, and that's not really fair. So yeah, go and chuck them some money first. Hopefully I can generate some sales for them. And then if you, on Patreon, if you just send me in a message a copy of your receipts for those 2 products, then I will send you this rack. And that will take out basically, I mean, it took me an hour or 2 to sort this out and to get the curves right and everything on Smart XL. So yeah, if you're already signed up to Patreon, then obviously that part's free anyway. And then I'll just send you this like rack, but I can't give you it unless you've bought those products first. So that's pretty much it for the DJ mixer. Let's take a look next. Let me see what time I'm on. I just need to check because my camera will run out. I've got a 30-minute limit on it. Let's go to... I've got 2 ways of showing you the next bit. So if we go to the MIDI Fighter Twister utility, just to take a look at the MIDI CCs. And then in my Patreon, I've actually got like a mapped version of this. I've already posted it. So I've got like a folder in Patreon and it's got all the documents for my audio routing, MIDI routing, also like the MIDI setup for the Twister as well. So we'll just have a really brief look at this. So yeah, in the MIDI Fighter Twister, what you can do is you can do things like switch action type, reset encoder value. So if you set that one up, that means when you press this one down, let me just turn it off, press this one down, then it'll reset it to the point in the middle. But then what I've done is I've also gone into, that should be clicked on, but there's a bug with this software where you've got to like click it on again and then disable it and then send it to MIDI Fighter disable. That is actually on last time I sent it, but for some reason that one never updates. So yeah, if you put has detent, the detent is in the middle there, probably pronouncing that wrong. And then it just adds, if we look at the MIDI Fighter Twister, it adds that little dot there. And then it just puts like a middle point on the knob. And then if you press it in, it'll reset it to the middle point. We've got other things on here as well, like, let me just have a look. So yeah, CC numbers, you can see I've got CC numbers for the actual rotary control, but then I've also got CC number for the switch when you press it in as well. So they're on different MIDI, no, actually they're on the same MIDI channel, 14. All of the DJ stuff is on 14 for deck A, and then I think, then the top 2, there was another thing with this actually. So you can see actually the switch numbers for the top 2 are on 13, and that's because they're being sent to the Pirate MIDI. So if you just take a look at the machines again, Pirate MIDI's here, I've talked about this before. What I've done is I've set up the buttons on the the high EQ to not reset. So I've got to reset them manually, but I wanted to use them as switches for Pirate MIDI Bridge 6 because you can go through the set like this. But I'm scared in case I like press one of them by accident and it switches the pattern. So what I've done is I've put those left and right bank buttons on the MIDI Fighter Twister. And it's actually really nice to just scroll through really quickly like this. And it's pretty rapid. So that's what that's doing. All of the send return stuff is also on channel 14. So yeah, 14 is like my MIDI Fighter Twister channel. And then you can see it on bank 2 because you actually get 4 banks with this. And right hand side of the MIDI Fighter Twister, if I press these buttons here, what I've done is I've mapped the buttons so that the top one goes left and the right. I didn't even know this was responsive. All right, so as I switch the banks on here, it's also responsive on there as well. I never knew that. So yeah, you can see bank 2. We're on bank 2 now, and bank 2 has got a similar setup in the sense the send and returns are still on the left and right hand side, but then in the middle we've got send and returns on deck A and deck B to send the decks into C, which is spectral. I'm not actually using it at the moment, but what I've done is I've set up bank 2 so I'm able to access that. And then I've got some controls to control the spectral on there. Let's see if any of this works. Yeah, so you see I've got decay there, shift, and then also I should have the sends. I don't know where they are. Oh, there we go. Can't remember what I mapped on here. I'll have to figure that out later. So yeah, I've got some other stuff going on there as well. Let me just reset this. But that's pretty much it. I've obviously got more room to expand the controls of the Twister because I've got another 3 banks there. I kind of like just leaving it on bank 1 though, because then I know that my DJ mixer is always there. And then any crazy stuff I can do using the other MIDI controller, which is the PC4 by Fader Fox. And then I've also got some macro controls and also just playing around with the machines themselves as well. So I kind of just want to keep the Twister mainly as a DJ mixer with send and returns. And that's pretty much it. So I've kind of gone through everything now. And next video, we'll talk about something else. So let me know in the comments what you want me to talk about next. And if you're up for doing any courses with me, I've got some mastery courses out. One for the Digitact. No, not yet, actually. It's coming soon. One for the Syntact, one for Typhon, one for the Hydrasynth. And it might be out by the time I post this video, but Digitact 2 mastery course and also Digitact 1 mastery course as well. Sign up using the links below to show interest for that, and I'll let you know when the pre-sale goes out before it goes public. And if you're interested in doing any of the other courses, go onto my website to check them out, but also sign up to my mailing list as well, because I often give away discounts on major sales days, so like Black Friday. Usually do like a spring sale and a Christmas sale and stuff like that if you want to get a bit of a percentage off on the courses. Or sometimes I'll do bundle deals. Maybe you've got some similar machines to me and you want to like kind of bundle a couple together. So yeah, my name's James Orvis from Mix Hackers, and I'll see you next week.